This news broke just before the show started. Game 1, of course, was last night. It was a close game up until the fourth quarter. Oklahoma City put the clamps down, ended up pulling away, winning by 26 points in Game 1 over Minnesota. Well, surprise, surprise. Usually when the ratings come out this soon, it's because it's a positive thing, right? It's because, hey, we had the biggest ratings that we've seen in 10 years, so we're going to put it out immediately. We want to make sure we get the good PR out there. Not so fast on this one, okay? Sports Media Watch put this out. Game 1 of Wolves Thunder, Western Conference Finals, down 24% year over year from last year's Game 1, which was Dallas and Minnesota. And it was also, this is the worst part, the least watched conference final Game 1 since 2021. That was the COVID-shortened year. If you remove the COVID years where everything was down, 2020, 2021, it was the lowest rated Game 1 since 2013, Spurs Grizzlies. That's a terrible number, guys, when you consider the runaway MVP on arguably statistically one of the greatest teams of all time going against what many are calling the next face of the league.
The ratings prove that neither is going to be the face of the league, or at least at this point, unless things change, because that should have been an anticipated matchup where people should have been interested. The idea that people tuned out of this is incredible. It really is. Ant-Man after last year, right? Mm-hmm. He was in the conference finals last year. People are talking about him in the same breath as Michael Jordan. And then SGA. I thought it was about SGA. No, wasn't it about SGA and the MVP? Everybody knew he was going to win the award. It was coming up. And they tune out? I get it. It was a blowout in the fourth quarter. But that number reflects more than just people turning off the TV sets in the fourth quarter. It's such a huge drop. To go back to 2013, really taking out the COVID year? I mean, that's a long time for this matchup with these two young players and two young stars not to get. If I'm Adam Silver, I was expecting, all right, we don't have Steph and LeBron and those guys, but man, our next act, look at what we got. If they had big numbers on that, don't tell me that they wouldn't have been bragging about the future is bright and look at these guys and people have adapted and they already know SGA. It's not like it's the Thunder with nobody playing. This is the MVPs on their team.
Yeah, but I think the MVP has to be MVC'd more. And I think that's one of the troubles of, like, this is his first Western Conference Final appearance. So now it's like he's on this stage. And you kind of got to get there. You got to build it up. We got to have, like I said, you got to have the drama. You got to have something where it makes people go, oh, and this is another great, as he just hit a big shot for Tyrese Halliburton, right? Stepping out on that stage. Now everybody gets to see me when it matters. This is a must-see game. Everybody's watching. You kind of need those to build them up. And this goes back to a conversation we were having, I believe it was last week. And one of the things that I think is everybody, like, wants parity. We want the young stars. And I'm like, we really don't. If you just look at the history of the league, you want a good mixture, right? You want to have this young guy, Michael Jordan, flying through the air. You're like, man, this kid's going to be the one. He's next. Woo! You see him? But you have Isaiah Thomas battling the Magics, battling the Birds, Bird and Magic. You have this Dr. J. Because if you look at that whole time, it was the guys you knew back in the 80s. It was Dr. J snuck in a couple of finals, and it was either Magic and of course, Bird. If you go through the 90s, it literally was just Jordan. And then he went away, and it was Hakeem for a couple of years. And my point is, you kind of need a Western Conference Finals that consisted of Steph versus OKC, LeBron versus Anthony Edwards, meaning where you got somebody you know, Luka.
I think you're selling these guys short. You're just saying this is not the old days. Every game is on television now. You could get any game you want. In the old days, I agree, you couldn't see SGA normally. You know what I mean, on normal situations or unless it was on a primetime game. But any fan, that's why fans aren't fans in a particular city anymore. You could be a fan of a player because I could watch every game with League Pass if I'm a SGA fan. And then Ant, the argument doesn't hold up because he was last year he was in the conference finals with a chance to go to the finals. People know who he is.
Right,
and,
so
and
I'm
he
glad you
shouldn't
said
be,
that.
But he shouldn't be in anything that should have lower ratings since 2013. The Ant-Man? Like, seriously.
I get that.
That's surprising to me.
Here's why, another point I was going to get to that. This is why having those guys, when I have a KD and a Steph, right? Or I have a LeBron and a Kyrie, when you have just Ant, SGA, who's an MVP, but that's it. And you look at OKC, they're kind of a college type of a team, meaning it's just a bunch of guys that come in line changes. It's just they're throwing them at you, and they're good, and they're hungry, and they're young. But I don't know them. And I don't literally mean me, but, the average person, there's no sex appeal. They're throwing in a bunch of players that go 10, 11, 12 deep, and it's great basketball in the sense that they play hard, they play good defense, but there's no star power. But when I have Steph and KD, when I got Jordan and Pippen, when I got
but those guys
Shaq and
aren't going to
Kobe,
be around forever. And even Steph and them, they had to at some point get on that stage and start to win. They didn't win automatically on the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, there's
but
a process.
You say about Caitlin? Steph was doing something we'd never seen, so he became a supernova.
Yeah, but
Steph was doing,
you gotta admit,
and Clay.
come on, Ant-Man, all the hoopla about him, and you talked about it, the national commercials with Sprite and all that. Like he can't be a part of this. If you want to say SGA, but Ant to be in a game where people don't know who he is or doesn't want to see him play, and it's the lowest rating since 2013, not 2 years ago or 2013. I'm stunned.
And I don't think we're sitting here, Rob, if you had Luka, LeBron, and Ant in the Western Conference Finals. We're not having this conversation.
Yeah, but they're not going to be here. My point is, at some point, you're going to have younger players. Come on, those guys aren't going to play forever. And my only point is, it's amazing that with all the talk about Ant-Man and Michael Jordan and all that other stuff and him being on the stage last year, that they could lay such an egg on game one. That's all I'm saying.
No, I hear you.
That's a huge
24% is a massive drop off. But that's why, to me, you want it to be a perfect. You want it to be. Give you a perfect example. You want it to be how the Celtics handed it off to the Pistons. So I got the old guard, a bunch of championships, Larry Bird, MVPs. We all know him, and Kevin McHale, Rob Press, the whole gang. It's a brand, the Celtics. Beating these upstart Pistons for a couple of years, and finally the Pistons beat them. But that's compelling. I've seen them go at it a couple times. Plus, I see the star power of the Celtics, and I have this Pistons team. Then the Pistons do the same thing with the young flying through the air, Jordan and Pippen, and now it's like changing of the guard. So we almost had it too early, meaning if Steph and the Warriors are in the Western Conference Final and it's a changing of the guard, Ant's going crazy, he wins, it's like a passing of the torch. Or if there's LeBron, and he passes the torch down to Ant. We just kind of had it where it was just four young stars. Brunson, Halliburton, SGA, Ant-Man. You never have this. You got somebody, I got a Kobe. I got a Dirk. I got a Dwayne Wade. I got a LeBron. This is four new guys in this big – you get what I mean? You always – usually if you look at the history, you have at least two are staples.
Yeah, but the only thing is, I hear your point, but the MVP – and a guy who was there last year who they were talking about Michael Jordan with, for that to be not to be attractive, and I'm not saying they had to be better than last year or whatever.
24.
It can't be that number. And you can't take out COVID and say it's the worst number in more than a decade. More than a decade?
Let me tell you.
You can't tell me every matchup was great. You know what I mean? That there had to be some other matchup that wasn't exactly what people wanted. It's just stunning to me.
But here's the problem, Rob. You get Pacers Thunder, we're going to be right back here with Rob G. Yo, breaking news right before the show. Can you believe it? They're down 22% from the first game of the NBA Finals. Knicks and Timberwolves, because you mentioned Ant, and you got New York, and wow, this is amazing, and everybody, even if you aren't a Knicks fan, you're just happy why this is kind of cool to see New York. Not to mention, as we always talk about, New York has a gazillion people there. I think you're going to have something different. But if you get Pacers, Thunder, now basketball, it's probably going to be some good basketball being played, actual gameplay. But I think that might be a snooze face rating-wise. So I'm just thinking, I think we're heading towards that right now again, because usually, just to reiterate this last point, usually you have some mainstays, right? You had, like I said, Shaq and Kobe for so many years. So no matter who they were playing, there's new 2004 Pistons, but you knew Shaq and Kobe. You had Dirk went to a couple. You had these mainstays. Steph went to, 5, 6 of them now. You had these mainstays for so long, even historically in the NBA, where there's always a new upstart that gets the baton passed to them. Right now, ain't no baton passing. 7th year in a row with a new champion going to be, and 4 young upstart stars.
But even then, to your point,
mm-hmm.
I just think people haven't bought into.
The Celtics ruined it, Rob.
People haven't bought into that these guys are the next guys. Maybe it is Wemby. Maybe it is, that's the way I look at it. I look at it as that they're not the ones. Because, but I saw Kobe in his first playoff game shoot air balls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I watched it.
Yep.
I wanted to see Kobe in the playoffs. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I know he had other star players, but the idea that a chance for Ant-Man in particular, who didn't get there last year, this is the progress, right? And you just talk about it. 1 year you're there. And then, you don't win, and then the next year you come back, and then you finally get over the hump, and he could get there. If he gets to the finals, you know what I mean? Especially after the big trade of Cat being traded away. You look at his natural progression. That should be an interesting story for people to want to see, and it's surprising that it's that bad.
There's no star power on that Thunder team. I mean, SGA is a very wonderful, sweet young man, very unassuming. There is no star power on that Thunder team. I mean, none. Jalen Williams, an all-star. Just call him an all. Because he ain't a star. He an all-star by way of good player and all that. And the team was the number 1 seed in the NBA. I get that. That's why I usually get some extra votes. But they have no star power. Just call him an all. He ain't an all-star.